you today?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good.
All right, audio check.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Linda, yeah.
I'm definitely going to need to get myself some coffee before we get started.
You think?
Oh, yes.
All right, so I'm audio checking here. You ready to audio check?
Guess once I get.
Oh, I thought you were calling for it. I'm sorry. I was
Just
I
need to
was
get
jumping
I
the
just
gun.
need to get the page up and viewable. Hello, testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sounds like you're good.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me go do the guest mic. This would be the guest mic. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And then the glasses match the bag. Yes, girl. Love
Mine doesn't appear to be hot.
You are in 3.
We have phantom power switched on 3. We do not.
No, you don't need it for this mic.
I know, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Why, I'm just guessing why we might not have hotness here.
You're not getting anything off that mic?
Watch, check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hello, good morning.
Well, I just chumbawumba'd your mic with a little tub thumping, and it seems to work with this mixer.
I'm sorry, what?
Huh?
What'd you do?
I said I just thumped your mic, and it seems to work just fine. Let's do some real level.
But you switch the,
Oh yeah, this is the old mixer.
Hello, testing 1, 2, and 3. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, chick.
Once you get past the delay. All right then.
That sounds good, or is that a little too hot?
Maybe a little warmer. Yeah. Yeah, we could probably
Take it
maybe
down
take
here.
down the master on that iRig.
And I just took the master on the iRig down. Let's try that again.
Hello, check 1, 2, 3, and good morning.
Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Good morning. 5 minutes till podcast.
Yeah, that sounds much better.
So I fixed the overall electronics apparently, but the channel 3 was harmed somewhere.
Well, you said you saw little resistors and transistors that were all bent up and stuff.
I tried to straighten them all back out. I was using my...
Okay, we're going to go silent for about 5 minutes, and then we'll crank this thing up.
Ready for silence?
Silence!
Call the signing guy in.
And good morning. Hey, welcome in. It's the Morning Exiles podcast, the K&B podcast. You can call it whatever you want. You can find us here on Facebook on the Morning Exiles page. You can also find us on YouTube. Search for K&B podcast. You can see today's podcast. I'll have it posted later today. And, of course, our previous podcasts are all up there as well.
And we're going to have lots more fun things coming to you as we get closer to the holidays. Have you ever thought about doing a family history? Grandma recording.
23andMe.
Yeah, well, that's junk science. We've got real recording. And we're going to try to put this together in time for Christmas. If you want to do a family history and have it recorded digitally so you can share it with your whole family, we actually, as you can see, since we're at La Divina Italian Cafe, this equipment can go to your home, and we can record Grandma or Aunt Tilly or you and your husband or your kids or whatever you want, and make you a nice little digital recording package that you can share with your family. This is becoming very, very popular now, and since we're equipped to do it, and we're such lovely, tender, caring, sensitive, family-friendly guys.
Well, I am.
Yeah.
Y'all might need to find some other adjectives to use.
Once you can fake sincerity.
You've got it made.
Thank you, Uncle Milty.
This lovely lady sitting across the table, I know a lot of you already recognize Pam Bordelon. But if you've read Pam's Party Line and never have met, meet Pam Bordelon. Pam, so good to see you. How are you?
Good morning. Only for you guys would I get up and smile at
well,
this
that's
time of the
because
day.
you get paid to have late nights.
Yes, I do.
Now, we've got an anniversary of sorts with you that just happened. How many years have you been covering the
Well,
social scene here in Baton Rouge?
This October will be 26 years.
Wow.
That's a lot of pictures and a lot of parties.
That's a lot of pictures. That's a lot of parties.
Yeah.
And people say, well, you go to a lot of things, and Pam's always there, and Pam's taking pictures, and Pam's writing the story and all that, and they want to know how you...
We'll just say, please come. I get invited to tons and tons of stuff. I try to make as many as I can. I can't always be in two places at once. So I ask people to take a photo and send it to me when I can't make it. And to try to alleviate that problem, that you have multiple fundraisers on the same night, I have created an online calendar called Pam's Party Calendar that you can find on the Advocate website. And I have things clean into March of 2020. So
Seriously?
Seriously. So check before you schedule your next big
My
gala
birthday's in
fundraiser.
April, by the way. Just
Okay,
so
I'll put you on the calendar.
And I've seen you at events where it was kind of hit and run.
Yeah.
Because you had like two or maybe even a third
Yes.
event that you had to go to in the same night.
In the same night. I used to could do more than 3 in one night, but 3 is about the max I can do now. But
What's the most you've ever done in a weekend? Let's put
in a weekend?
starting on Friday afternoon and going through Saturday night and into Sunday midday maybe. What's the most you've ever done?
probably 7.
Oh
But
my
I
God.
did
Wow.
I did 7 in one day once upon a time. I started at like 9 o'clock in the morning and went till 9 at night, but I did 7 in one day. But that was years ago when I was much younger.
Do you remember what they were, or any of them? You remember
I
what
started off at, it was a breakfast for somebody, and then I went to a coffee for the Junior League, and then I ended up, I think it was a Forum 35 Viva El Vino event was the last one I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was many, many years ago.
Now, I have seen you at so many of these, I can't even count anymore how many.
Yeah.
And thing is, you don't seem to ever get tired. You always bounce on in. You always seem to have a genuine enthusiasm for your work. Now, sometimes your batteries have got to run down.
They do. There's usually one day a week that I just crash and sleep all day.
And you don't have any backup if you're not there.
No, yeah, I'm it. I've in a previous job at another publication, I was not the only one doing this, but since I've been at the Advocate, where I moved to in 2008, I'm it. I'm flying solo. So
Now, when you first started this, you had 2 small boys.
I had 3 small
Three
boys.
small boys. I'm sorry, it's been a while. I lost
Yeah.
But I mean, how did you manage, motherhood with all that activity?
I didn't stay I kind of went in for the most part and then I relied on some friends and their dad to kind of help me out,
Back you up.
back me up a little bit, and they all learned to. Thank God for microwavable mac and cheese and things. They all learned to fend for themselves and cook for themselves really young. So
Now, when you go to all of these things,
yes.
so you have to have multiple wardrobes as well,
Yes, you
particularly
do.
if you have two in one night. Because if Karen and I had this happen and we had to decline one, we did the belly up with the bar food, which is in a horse barn. Now,
Yeah.
a beautiful horse barn.
Yes,
barn,
it
but a
is,
horse
but
barn.
you're kind of cash for
Yeah,
that.
so it's jeans and boots, but then after that, there was a cocktail attire thing. So we either were going to go into the phone booth like Superman, or we were going to decline one of them. If you had to do that, do a quick change between?
Yes, I have gone into the ladies' room and changed clothes multiple times. It's not, yes.
Now, we have younger people that are involved on the committees of some of these big social scene things
Yes,
now.
we do.
And a sad truth is that many young people do not read the newspaper.
No, they don't. But you'd be
Have
surprised.
you ever had any of them don't know who you are and don't let you in?
No. I actually, once upon a time, had a little group of young people that called themselves the Page Sixers because they liked being seen in Pam's party line.
Uh-huh.
So
You've got a fan base.
I have a fan base.
I
Oh,
love
you've
that.
got a huge fan
Yeah,
base.
you actually have a pretty big fan base.
But
I know
yes.
people who get the Sunday paper just for your column.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And the funnies.
Yeah. Because sometimes my column can be the funnies.
I do the obits and Pam's column to see if I'm in either of them.
Either of these. One's good, one's bad.
Yes, indeed. So, now, this is not meant to be a put you on the spot question, but
It's okay.
everybody, I mean, before you were scheduled to come on here, and people ask Karen and I all the time, they say, well, you know Pam really well, and you go to a lot of these events, and would you ask her which is her favorite? And see, now that's a loaded question, because
Yes, it
you do
is.
cover everybody, and you cover everybody extremely well, but which is your favorite?
I don't really have a favorite. I have a top 10 list that I publish every
I
year
know.
in January. So those are kind of, at that particular, after that year, those were the ones that really stood out to me at that particular point in time. Just recently, this month, were some really, really fabulous events. Best dressed this year was a beautiful, elegant evening.
It was a knockout.
It was fabulous. They raised over $1 million, which is just like off the hook for a town this size. The American Cancer Society will tell you that was stupendous and this is the second time we've done that.
Yeah, I was actually kind of amazed to see it go. I mean, it went way over the
Yeah, because when I called them the Monday after the event and said, okay, just give me a ballpark, where are we? They said, oh, we're going to end up being between 800,000 and 900,000. And then,
Wow.
a week later, it's like, okay, we're through tallying it. It's over $1 million.
Yeah.
That was like, wow. So that was a really up there event. Then Dining by Design for Sisters Dulce is just always just Mickey Freiberg summed it up pretty good when said this is the most elegant event in town, and it really is. It is just fabulous all the way around. And one of the most touching things I've done all month was the fundraiser for Holly Clegg's gastric cancer
Yes.
foundation that she started, and that was an evening that just palpitated with love. I mean, you could just feel the love for that lady.
Kurt Chastain, of course,
Yeah.
great physician.
The V-Tones,
Great,
yeah.
and the V-Tones, their band kind of pulled this all together. He was with us on the Tuesday after the
Yeah.
event, and he got choked up afterwards talking about
Yeah,
it.
it was just an
Well, I mean,
amazing night.
Everyone loves Holly
Yes.
so much.
And you could feel that. You knew that if you were in that room that night. You knew that. So that was a really special night.
You know, it would be interesting. You can't do it now because you have to cover them. But it'd be interesting. Let's say you just magically decided to retire. And they started calling you to MC some of these events. And it's a whole different perspective. But Kevin and me and Karen, we've done a lot of these.
Yeah, I've done it a couple of times.
I can tell you, we have favorites.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, there
My
are.
favorites are anybody who doesn't change the script up.
Last minute, yeah. Or that gives you a script and doesn't just throw you out there and say,
Script is always a good
Violate
start.
rule number 1.
yeah.
Pam, I'd like to ask you, if you don't mind, you
Sure.
share your bio. Tell us the Pam Bordelon story.
Pam Bordelon story. Well, you'll notice I'm wearing orange and blue today. I did wear purple. I did represent for LSU yesterday at the Bingo Bell luncheon.
I would hope so.
I am a graduate of Auburn University, a proud graduate
We
of
won't
Auburn
hold that against
University. It's better than being from the other
At
place.
least you're a tiger.
I'm a tiger.
Of one kind or another.
I'm from the state of Alabama, so that was the better option of,
Oh, yeah?
of
What's
the
hometown?
two. A small little town called Union Springs,
Union
which is
Springs.
near Montgomery. I went from college to Mobile and worked for the Mobile Press Register. From there, I came to Baton Rouge 40 years ago this year. So I have proudly called Baton Rouge home for 40 years. And it is, Baton Rouge gets under your skin,
It sure does.
and you don't want to leave once you get here. So I've raised three sons here. I now have 3 amazing grandchildren that are my heart. I have an absolutely wonderful husband who graciously lets me flit about town. And
One of the grandchildren loves Karen, by the way.
oh yes, Karen's
Glued to
boyfriend.
her. Yeah.
Now, when I first met you, you were a TV journalist.
Yes.
Was
yeah.
that a relatively short stint compared to the rest of the career?
Kinda in the grand scheme of things. For the most part, I've always been print, but my dear friend Dana Kay was working at Channel 33 here, and they needed an assignment editor, and I had dabbled some for PM Magazine. I kind of have, my career is divided into, I was pregnant with this child when I was here, and I was pregnant with this child when I was here, and I was pregnant with this kid when I was here. So when I was pregnant with kid number 3, I did a stint at PM Magazine and as a story producer. So she knew I had done some TV, and she and her ex-husband Heath Allen were good friends of mine, and my ex-husband was in television, so I kind of had absorbed a lot of TV knowledge from them. So when they hired, she put me in touch, and I was hired as the assignment editor at Channel 33, and I did that. I was there for about 4 or 5 years, and that's when I first met you. And so I did that, and that then I left. I was at In Register magazine for a while, and then I left briefly for about 8 months, and was a producer for the 5 o'clock newscast at Channel 2, and then In Register hired me back as their editor. So, and then
when did the whole social scene thing?
I
take
started
root?
that at In Register in 1993, and like I said, I left in 2001 for 8 months, and then I went back, and it's been off to the races since then.
In a town like this, that strikes me as a really rough beat to cover. I mean, because somebody's going to get left out, and then you have to deal with maybe hurt feelings, etc.
I try not to leave anybody out. I laugh and tell people, if you don't want me to show up, don't invite me, because I will surprise you and I will show up. I do try to go at least once to everything so that I establish a rapport with that group and that organization, so that it's not just totally flying blind.
It's hard work. You have to plan your vacations around when the big
Yes.
social events are happening. You rarely get a weekend. I think a lot of people.
It sounds glamorous.
Well, I hear this all the time. I mean, I hear this. Mickey Freiberg and I were laughing about a year ago. He says, "Who's buying your dinner tonight?" And I said, "I don't know who's buying yours."
Yeah.
But
You eat a lot of banquet food.
there is a lot of work involved in these things, and there are people who think, "Oh, well, that's just for the rich people."
No.
As you well know, it is not just the wealthy at all these events and fundraisers
No,
for
they're
charity
not.
and things.
No, there are people that care passionately about causes and what have you, and I do too. That I had a young intern who was not real happy that they had to work on a Saturday and they were going to miss, tailgating, and they were like, not real, voicing their complaint, and they were like, how do you do that? And I said, I care about XYZ causes, but I don't have the money to give them. Mm-hmm. But I can shine a spotlight on them so that the people who do know they exist, and I can make put their event in a spotlight and let people know anybody can go and how much fun it is, so that the next year they have more people, they raise more money.
There are folks, and not just here in Baton Rouge, but everywhere, who kind of, pardon the French, but they kind of piss on the people who have deep pockets, who have, big checkbooks and things. But thank God here we've got people that are well-to-do, but are very, very generous with their money.
We do.
When it comes to worthy causes. And I think that's one of the things that sets us apart. We've got a very, very generous, I don't call them upper class, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes, we have some people who are very, very generous, and they do a lot of stuff that people know about, but they do even more that nobody knows about, that they do very quietly and under the radar, that people just really don't know.
Okay, we did a little audio check there.
That's okay.
Somebody's spoofing us online saying that they're lip reading.
That was ages ago. We had the volume down.
You said you came here 40 years ago.
Yeah.
I got a couple years ahead of you on this. But what I remember about that first 10 years, we had a lot of really great characters that were involved in the community and the social scene. People that really had outsized personalities. You had people like Harold Hertham, for example.
Yes.
You had Doug Manship, and the kids.
And the kids.
David, who still has a huge outside personality, and Richard and Dina and Doug Jr.
I remember the first time I saw David, my ex was down here for his job interview, and this tall, lanky guy comes walking down the hall, arms and legs, with a pair of Clark Wallabies on and long hair, and I thought, who is that? he was hippie personified.
That's the man.
That is the man.
Well, and your former employer in Register, the late Wanda Horn.
Wanda Horn.
She was quite a character.
Yes, she was.
I mean, what's different between, say, covering the social scene 30 years ago and covering it now?
I can't really say, because I didn't cover it 30 years ago, nobody did. Mm-hmm. I will give Wanda and Chris Russo Blackwood
Chris
credit.
Love, Russo Blackwood.
Yes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I have to give them credit, because really, back then, nobody was covering any of this stuff, really. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to do that, so they left the newspaper and started in Register and began covering it, because there was nobody that was really doing it.
Well,
and I was lucky that they pulled me into that world.
But I do see a difference over the last 6 or 7 years, maybe 10 years, as opposed to maybe 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. It used to be, they made attempts from other places to cover the social scene as well.
Yeah.
And you got a photographer, and photographers usually not dressed for the event.
Yeah.
And carrying 400 cameras with 200 lenses, and he's not going to need to shoot a field goal, so I don't know why he's got the 600 millimeter lens on his camera, bumping into everybody at their table. And they were a nuisance. Now,
digital is your friend.
It's a coveted thing. It's a coveted thing for Pam to ask people to pose for a picture.
Hell yes.
I mean, I saw it at the Epicurean Society thing. Pam wants a picture with us. It's a big deal.
It has,
That means you're going to be in the party line on Sunday.
Like I said, I can't vouch for 30 years ago, but over the years, it has gotten where people love to see themselves, in print. And
I always like it when we go to events, and we still go to a lot of events. We went to a lot of them because of the radio station originally, but a lot of them we went to because we support the causes.
Sure.
And I like it best when we've got some of our friends there, when we've talked them into coming.
Sure.
And if you happen to ask and get a picture of a whole bunch of us, that's already with the cause.
Yeah.
And you kind of spreading it to your circle.
Absolutely. And it's good for, and I usually try to ask whoever my contact is with the nonprofit, who do you want in the picture? That's something I've always tried to do. Who do you want in this picture? Who is it? Who? By having who in this picture, how's that going to benefit you? Tell me, who wrote the check, the big checks? Who were your big sponsors?
Yeah.
Who do we need to stroke? So that's kind of always been my approach, is how can I help you?
Do you ever find it difficult to get the main man for the pick? Sometimes it's easy to get the lackeys, but
I call it herding cats, because you start, and so you still rounding up, and if you open the bag to throw one in, two jump out. So yes, if I had a penny for every minute I wait trying to get all the players in line, I could donate millions of dollars to all these causes.
you've become pretty damn good though over the years at getting that camera up and wham.
I have,
and you've got the shot.
I've got. Today, Coach O was speaking at the Bingo Bell luncheon, and he had he had like a 10-minute window to speak to them and then get back for a team meeting, and he was leaving, and I stopped him dead in his tracks, and I said, I need a picture of you with Scott Woodward, is that his name?
The new AD.
I said, I need a picture of you with Scott, and I grabbed Scott, stopped and did it.
Well, they know. Now,
and wants a picture, you stop and give her a picture.
Here's another landmine question. And when I had a public relations agency, and I used to advise people on things like, hard PR and soft PR, and that's including if you have an event and you want to be in Pam's party line, you want to make sure Pam's invited, is that never, ever, ever get relegated to Wednesday. You got to be on Sunday. Because you've seen it. You know who's in Wednesday? The Shenandoah Garden Club.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in Wednesday. So how do you make that decision? I know I shouldn't have asked it, but
boy, you want to talk about putting them on the spot. Come on.
Wednesdays are smaller organizations. There are a lot of the schools have their PTO stuff, class reunions. Typically, that type of stuff goes in the Wednesday column, but they get seen a lot, because if I do occasionally screw things up, I will hear about it, so that I know people are seeing it and looking at it. So,
well, I'm glad you jumped in when you did, because I was about to make a humorous paper, perhaps only to me, as to how you did.
I will tell you this: there are so many things now that Wednesdays are becoming more important. Things are having to be run on Wednesdays, because I just simply don't have time to put them in. There's no room to put them on Sunday anymore.
Do they budget you a certain amount of space in the Sunday
Yes.
paper?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It could be how I could, once upon a time when I first started, if I needed 3 or 4 pages, I could have 3 or 4 pages.
Well, during Mardi Gras season with these crews.
Well, that's not me. That's totally handled elsewhere. But I get 2 pages now. I have to make it fit on 2 pages.
That's kind of tough.
Yes.
Because some of these events are huge. They're not
They
2-page
are.
events.
And, I'm kind of the mindset that if I go and you have a huge event, 1 picture is just doesn't make sense to me.
You make a list of your top 10 every year, and
Yes,
I
I do.
always love that. I kind of like to see, if I'm checking the boxes, how many of these.
How many you made
we've
it?
been to. But
It's usually pretty easy for me.
And-
Let's
and
see.
you
I don't know, 0.
and you can say as many as you want, but how many, or what are the ones that you would love to go to as a guest and not have to work?
Whew. LASM Gala is a good one. I love that. That's coming up. Their theme this year is based, they usually base their theme on what the big current exhibit is, and this year it's chroma, so it's all about color. So I just got an email yesterday, says leave your LBD, your little black dress at home and put on a pop of color. So I'm really curious to see what everybody shows up in.
Damn it, I was going to wear my LBD.
And
Last time you did that, I had to come bail you out.
yeah, the new gala, the Gala Goes, that replaced Chef Showcase and the Taste that Mary Bird Perkins did, the Cancer Services did. They're combined. That has become a really fun night. Let me think. Best Dressed is a really fun. That would be something that would be on my hit parade. The Fête Rouge events, the Mama Marino dinner and the tasting would be two things that I would like to go to.
Yes.
So, and I know I'm missing some, but I can't think.
Well,
Definitely a good time.
there will be more.
There will be more.
There will be.
There will be more. And no offense, people, those of you that I can't.
Well,
Like I said, I'm not an early morning girl,
and-
so my brain's not
And
awake yet.
I want to tell you all how gracious Pam is. 3 or 4 years ago at our Christmas party,
Oh,
somebody said, "How did you get Pam to cover your Christmas party?" I said, "Pam is here as a guest. She is our friend.
that's one. Yeah, I want to stay on that invitation list, please.
You will stay on that invitation." All right, before we let you go, I didn't realize that you were one of the PM Magazine producers.
Yes.
I have to tell you my PM Magazine
Okay.
story. When PM Magazine came out, I had just finished up being a long-haired rock and roll disc jockey.
Oh, wow.
And I was in the public relations business, and I did a lot of advertising buys with Channel 2 and Channel 9. And I also did some food stuff. So PM Magazine is coming out, and I get a call and said, "I want you to audition for this." And I said, "Okay." And I thought they wanted me to be one of the co-hosts. And they said, "No, we're doing a food segment." And I said, "Okay, I'm interested. I'm kind of disappointed you don't want me as the host, but I get it. I'm not, tall and blonde and handsome. I can do that." So we sit down and they said, "It's called the Cajun Chow Hound." I was like,
Oh.
"What?" And they
Not
said,
Cajun.
and they said, you have to drive a 30-year-old Ford pickup truck, and your co-host is a big bloodhound.
Yeah.
And I said, "No, thanks."
Yeah.
You
Best,
just
best
got
decision.
country dripping off of you.
Best decision you ever made.
And I remember I'm sitting there with Doug Manship, and I'm wearing a brand new suit that I just got at the Varsity shop that cost me almost a month's pay back then because I wanted to make a good impression. I said, and he wants me in a 20-year-old pickup truck with a bloodhound.
With bib overalls.
Not going to do it. And you know who I went to?
Jay Roberts.
Yeah. So that was my PM Magazine story.
Yeah. It was really funny. They needed, they apparently were not producing enough stories from here for the national reel. So
Yeah.
they pulled. That's kind of where, I was really lucky for somebody who had no broadcast experience. I worked with Mike Haley and Tim Lee, who were amazing. I went to the School of Hard Knocks, and I learned from some of the best.
But those two never made a bad visual and never had a bad piece of audio in their lives.
No, they did not.
But that show was such an interesting concept.
It was.
And I've often wondered if somebody brought that concept back today, especially in the digital age,
Yeah.
if it wouldn't work much better.
Probably. It probably
They had some
would.
tremendous talent.
Yeah. Deborah Sowers.
Deborah Sowers,
Rick
Rick
Barksdale.
was part of
Yeah.
that. So it
Yeah.
was-
Like Westinghouse Broadcasting at that time, that was their first venture into actual, first into actual visual stuff, because they a huge radio network, was Phil Donahue.
Yeah.
And they figured, well, we can do a syndicated talk show, we can do an evening magazine, and they just were not television savvy enough. The local people that grabbed it and were contributors, it was hard working with them, as I remember it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But I did it for like 3.5 months. And one of the most fun things I did was spend 3 days with Al Copeland. We went down for 3 days in a row and did a thing on him.
And it was the
his
longest
Christmas.
year of your life.
No, it was fun. We went. Do you know that they had a biscuit school where they teach their employee, or they did, how to make biscuits, and God love him. Of course, I was, obviously like with child. And so he went into the biscuit school and got me biscuits, and then went into the other side where they were learning how to fry chicken. He sent me home with dinner that night, so he was like, yay, I love you, man.
When I worked in New Orleans, I had some doings with Al Copeland and of course with Popeyes through the radio station. And I found him to be charming. I thought he was a really, really affable guy.
Yeah.
The ego was there. You could see it, but
it was.
when you're a multimillionaire by your own hand,
You can kind of
the ego
feel it.
kind of kicks in.
Yeah.
Well,
And Haley loved it because he got to ride in the Lamborghini.
Oh,
I
yeah.
couldn't fit in the car, so I didn't get to.
I was offered a ride on his cigarette boat when I was doing volunteer work for International Special Olympics.
Yeah.
And I said, you going to drive it? And he said, yeah. I said, how fast are we going to go? He said, about 120. I said, I'll take my shots from here.
Yeah.
Pam Bordelon, always great. We need to have you on more regularly.
We can probably do that.
Because you
we'd
are
love
you
to.
are a walking history of everything that's fun and good to eat in this entire city.
Will you come on and will you tell tales out of school, like what you saw the last Saturday night that maybe you don't have to name names? just
Okay,
a certain CEO of a
Well,
local
maybe we might not get that
was
specific.
falling down drunk.
No, we won't do that. Can't do that.
I used to love when gossip columnists would never say this.
yeah.
A certain
A certain-
silver-haired CEO.
As always, a pleasure. Thank you, Pamela.
Thank you.
Coming up
See you.
next, DOTD. Rodney Mallett will be with us. DOTD has a lot of work to do when these truck drivers bang into each other and
Yeah.
catch fire, and they have to
Shut
inspect
down
things.
things
And
for life.
it is a task that they run to. Rodney, come on up and take your seat. With Pamela, with our thanks, we thank you.
Absolutely.
And
Good seeing you, darling.
you'll talk a little bit about that. Have a good day today, and I'm sure we'll see you somewhere
How
this
you doing? I
weekend.
understand you're my neighbor.
Oh, yeah?
I drove by your house, and I said, damn, that guy looked like Rodney Mallett. And I got all the way around the corner and said, that was Rodney Mallett.
Just moved out there.
We won't out your address, but
That's cool.
Shenandoah in general. But good to have you as a neighbor. I live right around the corner from you, man.
Oh, awesome, man.
Right around the corner. Rodney Mallett is spokesperson for the state DOTD, and you got a lot in your wheelhouse. Especially, what I'm most curious about, what I want to ask about first is, have they done any structural assessment from that accident on the
Definitely.
on the
Before
spillway the other
before
day?
we even open the roads back up, we're going to go and do a full inspection on that. And so it took a couple of days because of all the debris. So once they removed the debris and they got the tankers off the bridge and the state police
and all that corn.
and the corn and the 2x4s and everything else that was involved. And state police gives us the clearance that it's safe for our guys to go out. We go out and we look to see if the bridge is safe to open up. I mean, that's our number one concern. And if you look back to when the Sunshine Bridge got hit by that crane that was on the barge, we went out there, we got there quickly on that one, and we had to shut it down for quite some time. Same thing with the Intracoastal Waterway Bridge when that truck hit it from underneath. And we went over there and inspected it and had to close the outside lane.
But what's the risk to a reinforced concrete structure like that bridge when you've got a really hot fire like we saw on Monday afternoon?
The thing our inspectors are looking for are cracks in the concrete or any kind of spalling like that. I mean, and that's what they went out there and they looked for. And so, like on the top deck, there was some areas where it was kind of flaking off, but it's just like, it's like even smaller than a pothole. It's something that we can repair. It's more cosmetic than anything else. So
That's good to know.
Yeah, we were able to open that up.
Now, again, if it had been a vessel, a barge that was carrying, fuel oil or something underneath, and it had gone up and hit that steel reinforcement with all of that hot, all of that heat for that many hours or minutes, that might have been a different story, because the steel is more susceptible than the concrete.
Well, there's a lot of things that could have happened,
Yeah.
and so that's what people were asking while it was closed. When are you going to open it? It all was based on the inspection, and they're saying, well, what do you see in these type of incidents? And the answer is, well, every incident's different. We never really know what's going to happen, and we don't want to make those assumptions. And we have bridge inspectors who go across the state every day. We have a lot of bridges in Louisiana because we have a lot of water and a lot of big bridges. Oh, thousands.
Yeah.
2,500 or whatever. We go out and we inspect those regularly. And so, we had a team ready to go as soon as we got the clearance. And they know what they're looking for, and they went out there, and it took them a couple hours, and they made the decision that it was safe.
Now, the I-10 over the Atchafalaya Basin is the only major link between two of the largest cities in Louisiana on I-10. And it seems that we constantly have accidents with big rigs. I know the state police will determine the cause of this accident, but that's not up to DOTD. But as I understand it, it was sunny, it was clear, there was no rain falling, there were no heavy winds, yet these 18-wheelers managed to bang into each other and close this down and basically shut down commerce and inconvenience hundreds of thousands of people, not to mention killing somebody in one of those trucks. Mm-hmm. And does DOTD ever get the ear of anybody saying, you know what, maybe we ought to do something to change the traffic pattern for trucks on this particular span because they're so prone to accidents there?
Well, that's a bold statement. The stats
I understand
may
that.
not back that up, and we need to see the cause of this crash before we make that assumption. You've driven that? I know you're a traveler.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not just the big rigs that are. I mean, you see cars just driving back and forth, darting in and out, and it's the four-wheelers as much as anybody else, I believe. And I tell you the truth, guys, if you look at the number of crashes between Lafayette and Baton Rouge, more than 70% can be attributed to some form of distracted driving.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
And it's not it doesn't matter if you're in a truck or if you're in a Mini Cooper. What you need to do is pay attention to what's going on. And as you said, people say this road is so dangerous. What are you going to do? It's a straight shot. It's not curvy. It's not hilly.
Yep.
I mean, it's really, if you obey the traffic laws and pay attention to what's going on, you should be able to get through there relatively
that's what I was
safely.
thinking. Operator error, because it is straight. There are no curves. There are no hills. And there, you can see them. You can see them with their phones up like this while they're driving.
It's crazy, the number of people
You
that
can see
have.
them adjusting the TV screen in their big cab.
Well, we got I might have told you this story. We got a complaint once about how before we repaved that part of LA1 south of Plaquemine, we got somebody who called to complain that the road was so rough that when they were driving into work, their laptop fell off their dashboard.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
That's as stupid as the guy calling the cops to report that somebody stole his stash.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's about the same type of deal. So.
The laptop fell off the dashboard.
So and once again, phones we don't have the stats necessarily to back it up or the science to back it up, but just on personal observation, a lot of it is going to be phone related.
People get bored. Sometimes we're talking about the truckers themselves. Sometimes we're talking about four-wheel motorists, but they get bored, and when they're on a long trip like that, and so they're doing stuff they shouldn't, things that are distracting. On Tuesday, the conversation on social media seemed to be a lot of people blaming the truckers, but when you're driving a big rig like that, you don't have maneuverability. And somebody passes you at 90 and then suddenly tucks right in front of you, and you got to get down on those brakes.
Right.
And God only knows where the trailer's going to go.
You're right.
And this is how these sorts of things happen.
And that bridge, it was built, 60 years ago?
Yeah.
It does not have the shoulders that some of the other interstate systems have. And so there's
changed the tire on that bridge, I know.
That's bad news right there.
Very scary experience.
So, there's a lot of things that play into this, but I think what we can boil it down to is 70% is distracted driving. We know that based on law enforcement's assessment of the crash. When they turn in their report, it goes into the database, and so we have that crash database. And we don't necessarily have it by vehicle type, but we have it by causation. And if you look at that, you're going to see that it's distracted driving 70% of the time. So just think about that. If we can cut that in half, that's going to really reduce the number of crashes that we have, not necessarily on that bridge, but anywhere.
Some different projects going on around the capital area. We thought we'd touch base with you and just get a little progress report.
Okay, sounds good. I'll do my best. And
Let's
what
go
I don't know,
downtown
I'll
Terrace
make
Street
up.
off-ramp. When are you going to open that up?
Well, there's several things coming into play right now on that. Right now, we're working with the city on some lighting projects. So it might be delayed a little bit, depending on the lighting, but it's just the lighting part of it. We're pouring the concrete, we're striping and painting and all of that right now. So there's a possibility. The interstates, the state highways are built not necessarily to have lighting. You should be able to drive on these roadways at night with your headlights. So there's a possibility we could open it up and then install the lights later, depending on the delay. Or if it's not going to be too long, then we will we'll delay it and move forward with the
You're
lighting.
talking about lighting on the ramp itself, or
Right.
just at the foot of the ramp where it
No,
meets
on the
traffic?
ramp, on the ramp.
Gotcha.
Now, everybody else complains about this. I think that the construction shift in lanes has made that little merge there a lot safer as you're getting on from downtown. If you're getting on from like Government Street or what is the next one as you head to
Florida?
the east? No, as you head to the east, if you're getting
Washington?
Yeah, the next one from Terrace
Or-
would be the
or-
Washington Street
Yeah.
offering.
Yeah,
Right.
and then Dow, well,
Well,
yeah.
I'm talking about the getting on, though, heading eastbound
Government Street.
on 10.
That's it.
It has gotten much better, in my opinion, with the construction lane shift. It has become a lot less dangerous. People are slowing down a little bit, and the merging is going more smoothly, has been my observation at the very least.
I don't have crash data for that area off the top of my head, so I don't really, I can't. If you're happy, I'm happy.
What I'm saying is it seems to be working.
That's great.
Yeah, it does seem to be working. I-10, adding additional lanes from Highland out into Ascension Parish, that seems to be going pretty
Oh, that's
well.
going really well. That project has moved right on pace, right on time, and I drove through there the other day, and it's going to be a great ride when they get that done. And they're moving forward with the second part. We did the Highland to the tree line,
Yeah.
and so we've already started from the tree line to 73. So once that's completed, I really think that's going to help a lot.
Going to be anything left of the tree line when it's all said and done? Or?
I don't rightly know. I haven't seen the plans all the way
There's
through.
a little room. There's
Yeah.
a little room.
Hey, we go back to
It might look like a tree mohawk.
the.
I mean, that once upon a time was part of the charm of our interstate system.
I
You'd
agree.
be headed westbound and nothing but trees.
I agree, and that's the beautiful part of I-49 because it's wide enough, and you can see. You do have the scenic views of I-49. But safety is still going to be our number one concern, and when you have the number of vehicles that you have on I-10 in that area, you're going to need a concrete barrier because to prevent those crossovers, especially with that volume of traffic and that close. We put the cable barriers when it meets the needs, when it meets, when it's going to work. But when in an area that tight with that much traffic going that fast, you're going to need one of the concrete barriers for sure.
Yeah, the cable barriers do work. I mean, they
work.
Not so long ago, I was on a trip out to Covington on I-12, and apparently the accident had only happened a short time before we came by. But it was a big rig. Started to come across the median, cable barrier stopped that truck cold. You could see, I mean, the truck was still in the cables.
Right.
My wife Mary Ann commented, "What happened there?" I said, "Well, for one reason or another, guys started to cross the median, but
Right.
that right there kept him from plowing into somebody
That's
headlong."
exactly right. They're lifesavers for sure. They're very expensive, because of to put in is expensive, and then the repairs are expensive. But you're saving lives all the time with these things. And you're right. We've seen video evidence of them stopping those big rigs.
Now the Pico interchange, how much of that is going to be DOTD and how much of that is going to be local?
Well, we're going to be doing the interchange off the interstate for sure, and then the actually widening of Pico. That's the city's project, but we're working together with this one, and that's going to be really good too. I know, Bill, you're a traveler.
Yep.
If you go down Segan or Highland or Rieger, this is going to really take off some of the traffic, and we believe that's going to be a very good project, and it's moving along quite well.
Yeah, I'm out that way quite a bit, and I think it will. It's going to alleviate a lot of congestion as far back as Bluebonnet, probably.
Right. Well, Segan can get back,
Oh, my
especially
God.
during the holiday season. So I think that's a good project. It needed to be done. Proud of that one. The project over there between I-49 and the Basin Bridge, that was like original concrete. That's the original design for that part of the interstate, and we've been widening that. And I don't know if you've driven out that way lately, but that project's really come along.
Yeah, Karen has driven it 5 or 6 times in the last couple months.
Right.
Because she has to go to Shreveport a lot and to Alexandria a lot, so
Okay.
she drives that, and yeah, it's better. I want to come a little closer to home, a smaller project, and this is the Government Street Road Diet, they called it originally.
Right.
Now, that was a state highway which you turned over
We will
to...
turn over.
Will turn over.
Once we're completed.
You all have to remediate the sewage or something there? There's DOTD has some work that they have to do before they turn it over. What's the status of that? What's going on with that?
Well, right now, what we're doing is We're milling some of the old concrete, putting down the new asphalt, making the sidewalks so they can meet federal standards. That's part of the reason that we do all of that before we turn it over to the city. And then we're putting in the bike paths and doing the curbs, and we're going to put the roundabout in at Lobdell. You know where that is?
Oh, that intersection.
That is.
How
That's
many arrows
crazy.
can you see at one
I
time?
know. How many
Maybe by
times?
the time you get it done, we'll be used to roundabouts and be able to navigate those.
Well, okay, let's talk about that.
Oh, God, yes.
The roundabouts you look at a couple of the studies or a couple of reports, and they say the same thing. When you tell people you're going to put in a roundabout, they're going to hate it.
Yep.
And then you wait 6 months and they're going to love it. So we have seen that with every roundabout we put in. What we've done is we have the public meeting where I wear track shoes so I can get out of there quickly, you know what I mean? Because I know we're going to catch heck. But then we send out a survey 6 months or a year later, and generally 70% of the respondents like their roundabout, and they would take another. In fact, in my job, very rarely do people call to say good job or, compliment. With the Hammond roundabouts, we had several people, especially the people who work at the hospital, call to say that they used to not be able to get out to go to lunch. You could see the restaurants from the hospital, but you couldn't get to them because of the traffic. But now,
Railroad
it's not the
Avenue
time.
and 12, there are 1, 2, 3 in a row.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've navigated that. It's not so bad. I mean,
It's
you
not
can get
bad.
through there pretty quickly.
Yeah, and the traffic at the Walker roundabout before, when it was just the signal, would back up to the interstate. And so a large reason for the roundabout at that exit was the study showed that a constant movement, instead of having everybody stop, the constant movement of a roundabout would alleviate or minimize the amount of cars that are backing up to the interstate, because that's a huge safety concern. Rear ends on the interstate, and we're not seeing the backups all the way to the interstate there anymore. So they do work, and the one at Lobdell is going to be much better than what we have there. I can't tell you how many times, and I've lived here for quite some time, that I get down to that intersection and I go, dang, I'm in the wrong lane.
That'll be a three exit roundabout, right? Or 4 exit. Let's see.
There's 4.
There's 4, yeah.
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 Still, I know what you're talking about. You got that one street coming in, Lobdell coming in at an obscure angle. And it's
Right.
like, where the hell, what lane am I supposed to be in?
Yeah.
All you have to do is for the first 4 months, station somebody on Government Street. When you see the Mercury Grand Marquis coming up, you stop it and you say, "Ma'am, sir, I will drive you through this the first time."
Wow, man. No,
Eric says that, commenting on Walker, he says that he was at that roundabout in Walker, and it seems like the motorists have learned, but he says the overpass is the choke point.
Right, and that's true. And in the grand scheme of things, the plan is to widen that, but we get back to funding. We have limited amount of resources and a great deal of needs.
Yeah, and that's been a discussion we've had so many times. In fact, we had a couple candidates for Senate, sitting where you're sitting individually, of course, and saying, what are you going to do about getting some money for transportation? I don't want to hear any more about Medicaid expansion. I want you to give DOTD some money so that they can do their jobs properly and efficiently.
Well, if you look at it, and I think that's a good point, Governor Edwards is really into supports the infrastructure, and so we've done a lot of innovative funding. Some of these big projects that we've talked about have been on the books forever and have not been able to move forward because of the funding. But getting the Garvey bonds and the fast lane grants and working with the feds, we're redoing that whole stretch from I-49 to the Basin Bridge, and that has needed to be done for 20-something years. And I'm sure Karen will vouch for that if that's the way she goes to get on I-49. And widening Highland to 73, same deal. Terrace Street, same deal. And doing the Loyola interchange to the new airport. That we had to go and get special federal funding to do that. So when we have the funds, we can get these projects done. And what we usually do, unfortunately, because of the funding situation, is maintaining what we have. You can't just build it and let it sit there. It's like kind of the fence in your backyard. Sooner or later, you got to work on it. And that's what we've been doing. But when we do get the funds, you can see that we have projects on the books ready to roll, and we're getting those done.
Well, again, I like the Garvey bonds. I like the fact that the current administration and Congressman Graves and both of our senators have been big proponents of the Garvey bonds, because what it is it's basically a very low interest funding on a bond that the feds guarantee to put the money in your pipeline more quickly. Is that a fair
That's it?
assessment?
Yeah, that's a good synopsis.
And if everything goes to hell, what are they going to do? Come repossess the concrete?
Yeah. We're going to tear up your road.
They're going to send the Army Corps of Engineers to tear up the road? Wait, they do that already.
Now, another project that the state is committed to is pretty much going 6 lanes on I-12 for its entire length, all the way to Slidell. How is that going?
That's the same situation, you know.
Just waiting for more money to come
And
available.
that's exactly right. And we do have those plans in the books, and we're hoping to make some announcements
Goes out
soon.
now to where? Satsuma, Caliel, somewhere in there?
Satsuma. And that's a nice ride, too. You know, it really does a lot of good for people going out to the Walker, Livingston area.
What do you say to the people that say adding more lanes in some situations, adding that third lane in each direction just gives you more room for more congestion? Or does it really, really help adding a lane?
You can actually see the difference. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember before, and I was working at, I think, the Advocate when they when they widened I-10 out by the mall, and when they widened I-12 out past O'Neill. And once they did that, the traffic, it's gotten a lot better. And you can see the growth.
It still slows,
It
but
slows,
it
but-
doesn't shut down like it used to on a nightly basis
Oh, and
going
it-
out to Denham Springs.
Right, it doesn't back up near as far. And also think about all the growth they've had out in Prairieville and Denham Springs and all those areas in the suburbs too. So you've added a lot more vehicle traffic, but we do have more capacity to handle that right now, or the best we can. Peak hours are going to be troublesome in a lot of places. It's just like the people who, and everybody's entitled to their opinion, I understand that, but people who complain about traffic after an LSU game, I don't see how you can be surprised. You have more than 140,000 people jam-packed and all leaving at the same time. Well, since they've redone downtown and revitalized downtown, which, downtown Baton Rouge is really, it used to be a ghost town, but it's really nice now. And we have all the state businesses and state buildings down there. And when you get off work and you head back home, you have a lot of people leaving from one area going onto the roadway. So you're going to have congestion. It's just going to work out
Well, I
that
mean,
way.
the thing is, when you're adding extra lanes, you're adding extra capacity. And I find these remarks kind of specious, because the alternative is a parallel route. You're going to get the federal government to approve Interstate 14?
Nope.
And then how long is that going to take? And what's it going to connect to? You got to have a front and a back. I mean, it's really kind of silly when people say things like this, and I think it obscures the real method, which is finding a way to move more vehicles more efficiently. And extra concrete will always do that, as far as I can tell.
Well, that helps, and there's a lot of other things that we can do as a community and as a nation that could help, like such as thinking outside of the box, so to speak, more of the work from home type of deal with the phones and the computers that we have today. We don't need to be in the roadway all the
My
time.
wife telecommutes. She works.
Telecommute,
She
yeah,
works
that's
from
it.
an office in our house every single day.
Oh yeah, I've heard other businesses doing that.
I think it's smart. There's no need to mark your time in a cubicle if you don't need to.
And then stagger. You can stagger if there's certain people who can do their job at 6 in the morning and leave at 3. Then don't make everybody come in at 8 and leave at 5. We can stagger our. And I know some of the plants over in West Baton Rouge have been doing that.
We also, seriously, we really, truly do need to be better drivers.
Oh well,
Kevin said something a little while ago about, you get bored. And what ran through my head is, you get bored trying to stay alive when you're doing 70 miles an hour and everybody around
I don't
you is
think
doing
people
at
are
least
thinking
that.
about how dangerous what they're doing is. They get settled into it.
But we need.
It's not gonna. It's
Road's
not.
going straight, the car's going straight, 65, 70 miles an hour. It's like, yeah, I can.
It's not going to happen to me
I can,
either.
Yeah,
I can check my email. Yeah, sure.
Well,
We also, one other thing I want to talk about is, like, we have that group, the commuter crew, and they're going around to businesses and trying to get people to carpool more. And, that would be a good thing to do. I know it's hard for a lot of people, especially when you have kids in school.
And I just don't think it's in our nature here locally to carpool. I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just saying it's not in our nature to embrace such a thing.
I read a Time study a number of years ago, because this is one of my pet peeves. You're the first car at the red light, okay? And you're giving it this.
Oh, yeah.
And light turns green, and you're still giving it this. And finally somebody, bam, 10, 15 seconds later. And they were talking about the domino effect of not being ready to proceed safely when that
How many
light
people
turns
don't
green.
make it through that green?
And there are a whole lot of bad things. There's no good things that are with this, but what we don't have, and I guess we don't have the money for this either, is we don't have really, really good traffic enforcement. Now, we know the intersections where this happens most commonly in Baton Rouge, but we cannot afford to station a cop there and say, I'm going to write you a ticket for improper lane usage or delaying traffic because you're a jerk.
Or distracted driving.
And then let's make that a big fine. Seriously,
Oh,
a $250, $400 fine.
As being a jerk, you can't be fined for being a jerk.
Well, I've never been, but
I know. I was about to say.
I've always talked my way out of it.
No, but that's also going back to driver responsibility. And one of the things that we talk about, especially like in a weather situation or a work zone situation, or the situation we had where we had to detour traffic, is be considerate to your other drivers.
Yeah.
We want you to don't drive distracted, wear your seatbelt, don't drive impaired, all the other things. But we also want you to be aware of your other drivers and be patient and considerate. And that goes back to one of those things. And another thing you'll see people do is when they get to a red light, they'll stop and give somebody 2 car lengths, which causes everybody to back up. So the folks who want to turn right now can't make it. Where if they just pull up, we can make it. We need to think about
And they're
other
also
people.
not over the coil that helps activate the light if you got a lot of people queuing up.
That very thing happened to me just this morning trying to pull into this parking lot off of Acadian Thruway. Somebody was blocking the entrance to this parking lot, and there was probably a car length and a half between them and the guy in front of them.
Right.
Well,
It's like, if you could pull up, I could...
I know.
I'm going to make you an offer.
All right.
I'm going to make you an offer.
Monetarily?
I'm out of work, and Kevin can help me with this. If you see Dr. Wilson today, we work very reasonably. We will go, and we will visit every major metro in this area, and we will determine who is too stupid to drive.
That's a huge task.
Well, like I said, we work cheap. It's going to take a lot of time, but we'll find the person on College Drive that had half a mile to get in the right lane, and now he's in the far left lane, and when the light is red, he turns on his signal because he wants to go 3 lanes over into the entrance, and we'll just say, I'm sorry. We'll take his driver's license. We can carry one of those torches like you use on a creme brulee.
Sure.
We'll melt his driver's license. We'll pull the plate off his car. We'll slap him and say, you are too stupid to drive.
Every time we've talked, and we've talked a lot over the years, you always come up with some kind of innovative idea that will probably get us all arrested.
Yeah.
So,
No. I mean,
Kevin, be careful, man, hanging out with him.
We're running short on time, and before we go, the one thing I wanted to ask, legislature paved the way for some funding for the 415 extender.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge deal. That goes back to getting this funding, to do these projects.
The 415 extender is important, if only for there to be another way in and out of
Right.
that area.
That's exactly right.
Forget leading to a bridge. I mean, a bridge is going to come later, I'm sure, but when does that start to proceed?
Well, we're proceeding with this. We got to do the environmental study. We've got to do the permits. We've got to do all that, and we're working on that. We have to do the design. We don't get that money exactly until 2021. And it's not going to come in one big lump sum. It's going to be over a course of years. So, and we do have a large number of big projects that are going to be funded with that. And also, we got in that same time frame, we got some. I think it was about $50-60 million from the federal government to address some of those rural bridges, and that has been a big problem across the state too, because some of these bridges are 60 years old, timber bridges, and they're falling apart. And our big agriculture business in the state, they need these farm to market routes, you know.
Gotta have them.
And so we're going to be addressing those. The 415, it's a one-time funding thing, and we're going to address that, but that's going to hopefully alleviate a lot of the pressure from LA1. And so, and also, it will help people if anything occurs on the Intracoastal Waterway Bridge and you need to get around it. So it's going to be a nice alternate route, but I also think it's going to be heavily used by other folks as well.
You guys have got a tough job. In my opinion, you're doing it very well.
We appreciate that.
We're always glad to have you here, and we're always glad when Dr. Wilson can join us as well. But we really did. We wanted to get DOTD on because it is so difficult after one of these big conflagrations for you to get things operating again. And once they turned it over back to you, you had it inspected and opened in just a matter of hours, and that's something to be seen.
Well, we appreciate that. I tell you what, the guys out there in the field, the ones who you see working on the side of the road, working in the work zones, in the dangerous areas, in the heat, in the rain, and in the cold, they're the ones who deserve all the credit. Those bridge inspectors, whoo, Lord, I don't know, man. I couldn't do it. If you have a fear of heights, bridge inspection is not what you need to be
I don't
doing.
even like being this tall.
Well, I think generally speaking, DOTD is underappreciated, and there's always criticism. Some of it even comes from me. I called y'all top heavy the other day. I said, what do they need 5,000 employees for? But
4,000 bridges.
Yeah, you say that, but then when we have a storm blow through and you need somebody to remove your
Glad to have
trees,
you.
and you need somebody to fix that pump to do Acadian, or you need somebody to put out barricades, then those are the employees. I mean, those are the guys who are doing all the work, and we have thousands of those, but we have a lot of roadways that need to be repaired, and they're doing the guardrail work, they're doing the cable barrier work, they're filling the
striping.
potholes, they're doing the striping, they put down the reflectors. Have you ever seen those guys doing that?
Oh, yeah.
That's not a fun job, but that guy gets out there and they do those reflectors.
especially in this kind of heat.
I know
Well,
it.
especially with drivers that are using their cell phones. They get clocked a lot, I'll bet.
Oh,
Close.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, yep, you're right. It
Yep.
happens a lot.
But I freely admit I've not always been completely appreciative of the Department of Transportation. So
Well, that's okay. A couple of your shows I didn't like either, so
Well,
it's
yeah.
square.
Dr. Wilson, we'll go out there and tell people they can't drive. I don't mind. We work very cheap.
I'll let him know.
Please let him know.
He's an innovative thinker,
He
too.
is an innovative-
Gotta do the
But I
two.
think he likes to be more legal than you. You know what I say? Because I
It's
think
funny that
last
way.
time you were talking about using some kind of
The slap police.
weapons or something.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna taser people
We're
for
going to
bad
tase
driving.
people.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there you go.
But
Yeah.
too stupid to drive, I think that may be a project right there.
Yeah, too
Okay.
stupid to drive. Rodney Mallett with DOTD, always great to have you. And by the way, really good job on getting that bridge inspected and reopened, and all these wonderful interstate projects that are moving so well. They all look like they're going to be ahead of schedule, and that's good news too.
Yep, I think so too. Thanks, guys.
Welcome
Thanks,
to the
neighbor.
neighborhood, man.
Good to see you. Come by sometime,
We'll see you
man.
again
We
sometime
barbecue
soon.
a lot. See you guys later.
I'll just come knock on the door. Rodney, I'm hungry.
Everybody does it, so it's
There you
no big deal.
Now-
Take care, my friend.
All right, guys. See you.
Now, Kevin, we may have a change of schedule for next week. Lance has got a big group coming in that has like a group of 15 or 20 that uses this area on
Okay.
Tuesday.
Okay.
So we may want to do our broadcast on Monday or on Wednesday. Do you have any particular
No,
feeling as to that?
I'm flexible. We can go Wednesday morning.
You want to go Wednesday morning?
Wednesday morning, sure. I've got to be downtown for Rocket Right Radio anyway. So
Well, we are. Well, then I will tell everybody, and we'll remind you on Facebook and through our other methods that instead of Tuesday, we will be joining you Wednesday morning.
Quick note, I put out a call to the, I got in touch with Beverly Thompson, who's a candidate for State Senate, District 16. She thanked us very much for the invitation, but doesn't know when her schedule, which she says is incredibly busy, might afford her the time this early in the morning to come out and spend some time with us. So,
She did the I'll get back to you.
no, she basically said thanks, but no thanks.
That's even better.
Well, I mean, I appreciate some people we invite on the program and we never hear back.
Hey,
Yes or no?
we made you what you are today. We can break you. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Just kidding.
Just kidding.
And by the way, Beverly, if you change your mind, and you'd
Yeah,
like to
give
come,
us a
just
shout.
Give us a shout.
Yeah.
We'll put you on. Or-
Write a date that would be good for you on the back of a $100 bill and send it to.
Any idea what we have for Tuesday?
Well, the St. George people are rattling my cage here. I got to hear all about Drew Merle's petty family problems this morning while I'm trying to put this broadcast together, hooking up microphones and things.
The latest thing I've seen from the St. George story is that the opposition is now saying, somebody needs to do some research on these St. George organizers and find out what groups they've belonged to or given money to.
Oh,
In
Boy
other words,
Scouts.
they're trying to suggest that they may be associated with racism. No. St. George is not about racism. St. George is not about racism.
Well, there were no dragons either with St. George, so
Yeah.
we've managed to make it past that. But yeah, we'll reach out to Drew and see if he would like to come back on. And
They've got a campaign rally because now it's a campaign. Now it's like on October 12th, vote for St. George. They've got a campaign rally coming up, I believe, next Thursday night at, I want to say, Woodlawn Baptist Church, 6 p.m. on Jones Creek Road. I'm planning on being there, by the way. And I was thinking maybe, if possible, we could get Drew on for the following morning, which would be Friday the 7th.
All right.
Friday the 6th.
all right,
That would be.
Well, and we also
Friday the 6th.
have the Legally Unfiltered guys want to do a group podcast.
Yeah, we'll be on your podcast if you'll be on ours. So the idea is we're going to do both podcasts at the same time.
But everybody has to bring their good toys. Like Richard has to bring his Shure SM7, and I'll take the P120 out of the box, and you can bring your Audio Technica.
My
and-
toys are all on a budget, man. I can't compete with a guy like Richard,
No,
who's
you-
like a lawyer, and he can buy the
Yeah,
good stuff.
You got that AT2020, which is a fine condenser microphone. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
It'll be fun.
You might save that
So
for the
that's
paying plan.
that's something that's cooking. We're going to do the Legally Unfiltered podcast and the Morning Exiles podcast at the same time,
all at once.
all at once. But till now, I need another cup of coffee. So
Y'all have a good Labor Day weekend. Enjoy your Labor Day weekend. Please be safe. Don't drink and
oh,
drive.
and did we say go Tigers?
And
Go Tigers.
so is Georgia Southern going to be a rollover, or are they going to give us a little something?
I have no idea.
You know, Chris Blair,
I am not the man to ask about.
before he came here, he was the voice of Georgia Southern.
Was he really?
Yeah. So he's going to do both games.
He's going to root for both teams
Well, no,
simultaneously.
he's going to run between the two booths. They're right next to each other up in Tiger Stadium.
That would be fun to hear.
Oh, my
But,
God.
yeah, I have no idea what to expect from this game. I know nothing about Georgia
Well,
Southern.
I promise you the coach is not taking it for granted, neither are the players.
Normally, the first game of the year, if it's not an event game like at Cowboy Stadium in Dallas, it's a tune-up game. So, do you consider it to be a tune-up for them?
You know what? Georgia Southern can put a good team on the field. I think we shall prevail, but I think it's not a rent-a-win.
Okay.
I don't think it's a rent-a-win.
All right. Well, listen, we appreciate you all watching this morning, and we'll talk to you again, not Tuesday, next
Wednesday.
Wednesday morning right here. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Be safe out there. Do not drink and drive.